Welcome to 4th grade, Module 1, Lesson 2. Our I Can statement for this lesson is I can read and write 6-digit numbers in standard form, word form, and expanded form. So we know right away from reading this I Can statement that we're going to be focusing on some key vocabulary words today of standard form, word form, and expanded form. So if you aren't sure of those yet, make sure you're learning that vocabulary in this lesson. Take a look at problem number 1 on page 12. The distance through Earth from one side to the other at the equator in miles is shown using base 10 blocks. Use what you know about place value to write the number in the place value chart. So it's just giving us a bunch of base 10 blocks that we need to look at and understand what each of these represents. So I know right away that these are my ones cubes. So I want to count up how many ones there are. And I can see that there are 6 ones. So I can place that in my place value chart. Next, I see my tens. There are 2 sticks here. So 1 10, 2 tens. So I can go to my place value chart and place my 2 tens. Then we have our hundreds place. We have how many hundreds? There are 9 hundreds being shown. Okay, but we aren't done yet. We still have one more section to count. Remember, these are our thousands. So we have 5 and 2, meaning we have 7 thousands. So we know that between periods, right, this is our period here for the thousands and our period here for the ones, we need to make sure we have that comma. So now we can look at our questions. Letter A asks us, how can you use what you know about place value to write the number in standard form? Now right away, if you aren't sure what standard form is, we need to make sure we're taking a look at our vocabulary box down here. It tells us, standard form is a way to write numbers by using digits 0 to 9, with each digit having a place value. So we are going to show this number that we put in our place value chart in standard form. I'm actually going to go ahead and answer question B first before I come back and do A. Because B is asking me what that number was that we found, right? The distance through Earth from one side to the other at the equator in miles is, and then we read our number, and we can go back. We have 7,926. Remembering to put that comma right where it belongs, in between periods. Okay, so now that we've written it in standard form, we want to know, how did we use our knowledge about place value to write this? Well, we used that knowledge to fill in the place value chart, right? We were able to look at the value of each of those blocks and form a digit. The digit with the greatest place value is in that place value position that's furthest to the left, right? We know that our place value gets greater as we move to the left. That smallest place value, in this case our ones place, is the furthest right. So how can we use what we know? Well, when we know the value of each digit, we know where to put it. So we can write when you know the place value of each digit, well, what can we do with it? We know the place value, then we know where to put the digits in a number in standard form. going to go ahead and take a look at problem number 2. The speed of light is 186,282 miles per second. Write the number in the place value chart. Go ahead and write it, and I'll have you check it in a minute. Go ahead and check that you put each digit in the correct place on the place value chart. So now let's take a look at B. Use the place value chart to help you read and write the number in word form. Use a comma to separate periods. Again, if we see this vocabulary word here, right, word form, we're going to go ahead and reference our vocabulary to the side. In word form, write the numbers by using words. Essentially, it's how we say it, right? 186,282. Now here it tells us we need to use a comma to separate the periods. Just like we use the comma in the chart, as we write those periods out, we'll put a comma. So we know that we have, for this first period here, 186,000. So we want to write out that whole thing with 186,000. Okay, so I got to the end of that period. Now I have a comma, and I'll write out my period here, 282. C is asking us for the value of each digit. So the value of the digit 1, think back to lesson 1, 1 is 100,000. So to write that value, we write 100,000. We're going to separate these values by using semicolons. Go ahead and write the value of all 6 digits. Pause the video and start it when you're done. Go ahead and check that you have the correct value for each of those 6 digits. And now when we look at D, we see use the value of each digit to write the number in expanded form. Again, we're going to reference our vocabulary. In expanded form, write numbers by writing the sum of the values of each of the digits. So we just wrote out those values here. Now we're going to write it in a sum. So we're going to use our symbol to add in between. So we have 100,000 plus 80,000 plus 6,000 plus 200 plus 80 plus 2. So we have standard form up here. Then we have word form in letter B and expanded form in letter D. So now let's go ahead and check our understanding. Number 1, an article in the local newspaper states that 10,973 cans of food were collected for the community food pantry. How can you write 10,973 in expanded form? Number 2 asks you to write the number in a different form. Go ahead, pause the video, and then start it when you've answered the 2 questions to check your work. So number 1 for check understanding, we have 10,000 plus 900 plus 70 plus 3. Now you're going to notice that we didn't include this digit of 0. We don't need to show that when our digit is a 0. So we don't need that plus 0 in the middle. Number 2, 30,000 plus 40 plus 50. Here it is in standard form, 30,450, and in word form, 30,450.